Kids, good evening. It's my vlog for February 27th, 2013. How are you? Lots to talk about today. I'm getting back to normal. I'm feeling a lot better. Um, my emotional spiral is done because the medication's kicked in. My energy level is much higher. I actually got things done today. Um, One of the things I got done was I had to get all these papers together and find out how much I spent on medication for my taxes. And just on medication, just to stay sick, that's not to get better. This is just somebody with no insurance on the bare minimum medications possible that really don't even make me feel good. They just keep me stable and slowly declining. $2,300 last year. That's not including January and February, where I had thousands of dollars worth of procedures done and only had insurance copays. Because I had insurance in January and February of 2012, and that's when it ended. So now, that's it. That's all she wrote. I was aghast. That's not including doctor's visits and all those other things that I get to do. So that was kind of like eye-opening. Now, the greatest story ever told today on Facebook was this. That the NRA guy, the guy that runs the NRA, that crazy lunatic, LaPierre, I think his name is, something like that, apparently is a crazy lunatic. And he was rejected from the military because he's got a mental illness. And what could be more ironic than the NRA guy, that NRA guy that runs the NRA is mentally ill. And supposedly most of these people that kill people with guns are mentally ill. And he's out there saying, keep our guns, keep our guns. It's totally insane. Now, being insane myself, the irony just drips. I enjoy it so much. I just felt it whoosh, gush. It was like a Ginate moment back from the 70s. So yeah, that. Now, this Pope Emeritus now, or whatever, he's still the Pope till tomorrow at 8 p.m. And at 8 p.m. suddenly he becomes Pope Emeritus. And he whooshes off to his country estate for some ex-poping around or whatever. Well, he's still actually a Pope. So now we'll have like two popes. Now, the thing I love about this is everybody's been standing there kind of for the last couple of weeks trying to figure out what are they going to call him, what is he going to dress like, what's he going to do, and it makes non-Catholics scratch their head, and it makes, frankly, some Catholics scratch their head because they didn't know what to do. They were just kind of making shit up as they went along this last couple of weeks, and you could tell they got very hostile and defensive in their press releases. And you know there's some shit going down when your press releases coming out of the church are hostile because you really don't have answers and you are just making it up as you go along. Meanwhile, I am happy to report, in case you missed this little tidbit, the current Pope, Ratzinger, is giving up his nifty red shoes and changing them for some new designer shoes he had made in Leon, Mexico, whilst visiting. So now he has a new pair of designer shoes to go along with his new title. Because he is such a fashion icon and sexy hunk. I mean, I can't wait until they release his fragrance, his designer fragrance he had made for himself at the local Walmart. I'm sure everybody's going to line up for it. I know I will. What else is going on today? Oh, the Sequester. Now, a lot of people aren't talking about this. And the people that are talking about it are on television. And they don't make any sense. And I sit and listen to this dribbly crap all the time about who's to blame. And is the sky falling? Is the sky not falling? Is this just a mirage, an illusion? What is this? Are we going to get backed up with ATC and everybody's, old people are going to starve and all hell's going to break loose? Or is it just not that bad, or does anybody really even care? Most of my friends are not writing about the sequester, frankly. I think we're all in a kind of state of total burnout, because we're just numb from the ridiculousness coming out of Washington, D.C., on both sides. Um, I mean, seriously, they weren't even talking about this. The politicians weren't even talking to each other until now. It's like the day before. This sequester thing is supposed to happen or whatever, and then there's something going on at the end of March, and then there's something going on at the end of May, and they have to have some big deal at some point. You just saw that thing, that orb that went through my hand. That was weird. Um, but yeah, so anyway, what's the new date? And what's going to happen? And frankly, how does it affect my life? So far, the sequester, as far as I know, doesn't affect me at all, because I don't travel. Um, I mean, except to go out in the backyard and pick up dog shit. That's about as far as I travel, and I don't need airport security for that. Um, I don't. I don't get Meals for Wheels because I don't qualify for it. Although I wish I could, because they have some good food, actually. I don't work in the defense industry or know anybody that does directly, because they're going to lose a job. So I don't know. What is it going to do for me? Really nothing. So frankly, I could care less. I'm kind of tuned out. Now, when we start talking about grand bargains and stuff, be careful of catchwords. And be careful of these little things they're going to try to slip in and stick to you. Now, this is one thing the Republicans would love to do. They're called chained CPI. And whenever you hear, and Obama's ready to sign off on chained CPI, so you Democrats better listen up too. Chained CPI is this. It's a cost of living index, but it's not really a cost of living index. It goes way under the cost of living. So right now, things like Social Security payments are tied to a cost of living index, an actual cost of living index. The chained CPI says, well, that's not really true because people will go for cheaper choices. Now, I don't know how many of you know people on Medicare and Social Security or disability or SSI or any of those programs, but I can tell you I don't know many of them that are out buying fancy cuts of steak and designer products that are extravagant on the budgets they're getting. Because when you're getting somewhere between $500 and maybe, if you're really lucky, $1,500 a month, there's not really a lot of room after, rent and or mortgage and electricity and some kind of communication and some kind of insurance, either for your house or for a car, or something like that. And then you add food and, and I guess some KY jelly for entertainment, or Vaseline because it lasts longer. That's it. That's all you got. There's not a lot. So these people that, talking about these welfare queens just rushing down and buying like the best items. If you look in the supermarket, check carefully, because I love how these people get on and ramble about bullshit on TV and stuff, because they really don't know what life is, because they're so busy getting their hair done and their makeup and rushing from place to place and getting very little sleep and going out to fancy parties. These supposed people giving you the news really aren't living life. They usually have somebody like the nanny or the maid or the personal assistant out there doing the normal things that normal people have to do. So, like, let's take the WIC program, or like food stamps, okay? Women for children, and they get food stamps and stuff. Food stamps are very tightly controlled these days. It used to be years back, there was a lot of abuse, but it wasn't abuse by the government, it was abuse by people. People were abusing the system, and that's always the way it is. It's not the government's fault that we're a bunch of assholes that can't be trusted. All of us, because we are. We prove it to ourselves over and over and over every single day. All these multi-million and multi-billion dollar scams against the government. It's us, the people, screwing ourselves and then claiming it's the government's fault for allowing us to screw them or ourselves. So it makes no sense. It's kind of like this thing in the Bible where they say, love thy enemy. Well, if you love them, they're not your enemy. It's a fucking preposterous notion. It is a stupid thing. It's ridiculous on its face. It's illogical. You don't have enemies. If you're loving them, there should never be an enemy. You should just love everybody and shut the fuck up. Same thing with these programs. If we'd stop abusing them, then we wouldn't have problems. But people do. Now, for the most part, though, this chain CPI, this is where we're going to have a real issue coming down the road. People on fixed incomes are already buying generic products and they're barely scraping by because what is not caught up in the cost of living index are a few really important items. And the two things that they take out that are most important that are not cost of living index adjusted are already food and fuel. And what goes up faster than food and fuel? Nothing. Food has been going up 20-30% a year. Easily. And fuel has been spiking and dipping for a long time. But the trajectory is still up. Up. And then it keeps going up and it'll drop a little bit. It'll go up higher and then it'll drop and go higher and drop. So we're not keeping up now. And now they want to make it so it's impossible to keep up. So then what are you supposed to substitute for food? Think about it. It's ridiculous. So that's kind of what I wanted to say today. I'm just on this roll, feeling good, getting better. And by the way, I had cable guys out today because you know how I have this cable issue. I am certain that the ghost has something to do with this. But anyway, today they went in to hook up a room that was previously hooked up that someone unhooked without me knowing, some cable guy. And so first they wanted to give me lip about charging me for installation, which I already paid for like years ago. I said, oh no. We have a long history. And we'll get the Vice President of Resolutions on the desk because I'm not paying for that. I ain't got time for that. So they realized that I really wasn't playing and that I really was a pain in the ass because I told them, I said, listen, I'm retired. I can just sit and make your life miserable all day long. I have nothing better to do. So, and I'm really good at communicating because I used to work at an airport. People used to spit at me and kick me and cuss at me and call me names, and it doesn't rattle me. So I can sit there and just be this enormous pain in the ass. So let's just get this done right, guys, the first time. So they checked. Did you see that go again? Oh, it was actually kind of like that. Anyway, I love this haunted house. Oh, and I told the guys that were working that my house was haunted. And the one guy goes, I used to live in a haunted house when I was younger. So tell me, he goes, because your house feels haunted. He goes, what happens in here? So I was telling him stories as he was working, and I could see the hair standing up on his arms and the back of his neck. It was kind of cute. So I scared the cable guy. But he fixed my shit. So, and they found out that across the street, where I plug into like the master plug that plugs into like 7 of the neighbors' houses or something, in my little hole there was water. So my cable was underwater, which was why I was getting some weird readings or something. I don't know. It's very complicated stuff. And so I asked him to try to explain to me in a pedestrian way what happened. So he was going on and he goes, are you really listening to me? I said, yes. I said, I don't know what you're saying most of the time, but I'm listening. Because I've heard excuses from you guys forever. And he kind of laughed. He goes, He goes, it must be interesting. I said, well, it'd be like me talking to you about Reiki, or me talking to you about being a medium, or me talking to you about talking to dead people or living in this haunted house with dishes exploding and shit. Um, Doors knocking, doors flying open, papers levitating, things disappearing and then reappearing. Uh, Apparitions that sit down on your bed, you can feel your bed sink. And he was just like looking at me like, wow, dude. So, so what do you do? I said, I'm retired. He goes, oh, wow, you look a little young to be retired. How did you work that out? I said, I went insane. He's like, huh? I said, I'm insane. Absolutely insane. And you're so lucky that I took my medicine this morning, because you should have seen me a couple of days ago. I was a mess. He just stood back. And I said, well, don't be scared. I said, I really don't bite. Normally what I do is I take out my partial and I popped out my partial. And I said, I usually just slash people's throats. So it went like that. It was great. Such a moment. I enjoy people. I enjoy when I get visitors. And so today I had visitors at my house. The cable dudes. They came over and fixed my situation. So, and it was nice of Bright House. They actually sent real Bright House people this time, and they weren't ugly, which made it better. It wasn't hard to look at them. And this was the greatest moment in the history of the universe, because I know from my dealings with Bright House, they are awful at communication, both with their customers and with each other. They are just dreadful communicators. The company is awful. And they're a, quote, communication company. They serve internet and phone and cable. So they're supposed to be like, delivering conversation or information. And they're a communication supposed company. But the guy told me, he said, because I said something's been wrong with my remote the last few days. It seems like when I hit the select button, it's not always working. He's like, there's nothing wrong. Because I changed the batteries like twice. Because there's nothing wrong with your remote control. We're doing a change in our program, and he did some explanation about it. And come to find out, this is happening to everyone because it's part of their switching over thing, and this is one of the little bugs that they have. Now, I asked him, I said, well, why couldn't they send us a letter in the mail or scroll it on the bottom of the TV? Hey, folks, you aren't all going nuts at once. No, your remote's not broken. Stop throwing out good batteries. We're just in the process of transitioning, and this is what we found is a problem. He said, wouldn't that be, and he looked at me and goes, yeah, that would be simple, wouldn't it? I said, but instead I always have to hear it from you guys. And he's like, he shakes his head, he goes, well, Bright House is not a communications company. Bright House is a network company. We're a networking company because no one at Bright House communicates at all. I said to myself, no shit. I said, I told that to the vice president of customer service when I got her on the phone. I said, your communication is dreadful. And he just laughed. He goes, you got all the way that far up the chain? I said, yeah, I told you I have nothing better to do than be a persistent asshole. So it's better just to get me fixed up. And he says, well, I'm glad I did. So that was my big day. Thanks for watching. It's great to feel like I'm back. And for those of you that like paranormal stuff, big hauntings going on since the kitties have been here. It's crazy stuff. See you later.